Good morning, everyone. My name is Kevin Bernardus, and today I will be presenting the final outcomes of our consulting project for Wildwork projects of WWP. The main message I want you to remember from this presentation is represented across the top of my infographic: awareness to experience to partnership. Throughout this consulting project, we found that Wildwork projects already has something valuable. It combines therapeutic horticulture, regenerative farming, environmental education, and community engagement in a way that can create both individual and community benefits. So, our challenge was not about completely changing what WWP does. Instead, we asked, how can WWP make its existing value more visible? Turn that awareness into participation and then build relationships that support long term sustainability. Today, I will briefly explain the consulting challenge, our three recommendations, how they could be implemented, and most importantly, what I personally learned from the entire consulting experience. If you look at the top section of my infographic, you can see the challenge represented as a simple progression: low awareness, limited participation, weaker growth opportunities. Our phase one research identified that WWP needed stronger public awareness, clearer communication, greater participation in its programs, and deeper relationships with individuals, schools, and community organizations. One thing that became clear through our complete analysis was that WWP actually has a strong point of difference. For example, competitors may specialize in clinical therapeutic horticulture or mobile nature programs. WWP's advantage is that it combines well being, education, sustainability, volunteering, and community development through a permanent community based facility. So the issue was not simply how do we create something new, it was how do we communicate and leverage what already makes WWP different. This led us to three connected recommendations. Recommendation 1: the first recommendation on my infographic is tell the story. Expand digital marketing through visual storytelling. The purpose of this recommendation is to turn WWP's impact into stories that people can easily understand and connect with. At the moment, someone might hear the words therapeutic horticulture or regenerative farming, but that doesn't necessarily mean they immediately understand what the experience actually looks or feels like. Visual storytelling can help bridge that gap. Instead of only posting information about programs, WWP can show the people, activities, and outcomes behind those programs. For example, content could include volunteers working at the farm, gardening activities, environmental projects, participant experiences, workshops, before and after transformations, and upcoming community events. This could be distributed through Instagram, Facebook, short term video, and the WWP website. But there also needs to be a clear action attached to the content. So instead of simply seeing a post and moving on, they should have an obvious pathway to book, volunteer, and participate. The journey I've represented on the infographic is see, understand, connect, and act. The final recommendation report supports this because it concluded that expanding digital marketing through visual storytelling could help WWP communicate its purpose more consistently and create clearer paths from awareness into bookings, volunteering, and participation. This is always relatively achievable because it doesn't necessarily require huge advertising budget. WWP can use existing activities, staff, volunteers, and community stories to generate authentic content. So, recommendations one creates awareness. But awareness by itself isn't enough. We then need to convert awareness into an actual experience. This leads to our second recommendation: regular community farm open days. The idea behind this recommendation is simple. Someone may discover WWP online and think, that looks interesting, but they may still have questions. What happens at the farm? Is this for me? Can my family participate? What does volunteering involve? What actually happens during therapeutic horticulture? An open day reduces those uncertainties because people can experience WWP firsthand. As shown on my infographic, the visitor journey becomes discover, visit, experience, connect, and return. An open day could include farm tours, gardening demonstrations, sustainability activities, volunteer instructions, family and community activities, and opportunities to register for future programs. This recommendation is important because WWP's physical community farm is one of its competitive advantages. The computer analysis found that WWP's permanent community farm allows for ongoing relationships, regular volunteering, and repeat engagement in a way that a purely mobile service cannot necessarily involve. So rather than treating the farm simply as the location where service happens, we can treat the farm itself as a part of WWP's value proposition. Our final report explains that regular open days could reduce uncertainty about the organization while demonstrating its social, environmental, educational, and well being value firsthand. The expected outcome is strong community trust, increased visitation, more volunteers, and importantly, repeated participation. So, recommendation 1 says, see what WWP does. Recommendation 2 says, come and experience it. Recommendation 3 then asks, how can we build a network around it? The third recommendation is the area I personally worked on in greater detail. Establish strategic partnerships with schools, healthcare providers, and community organizations. During assessment 2, my responsibilities included developing this partnership recommendation together with competitor analysis and an industry overview. I divided the partnership strategy into three main areas. First, schools. WWP could develop curriculum aligned environmental programs for primary schools, secondary schools, TAFE institutions, and universities. Activities could include regenerative farming, biodiversity projects, gardening, composting, and environmental sustainability. This gives schools experimental education while potentially giving WWP recurring participation and additional funding opportunities. Our report identifies excursion budgets, well-being funding, and collaborative grant opportunities as possible funding pathways. Second, healthcare. This is where we propose the Green Referral Program. WWP could build relationships with primary health networks, GPs, psychologists, community health providers, and allied health professionals. Suitable participants could then be referred into community gardening or therapeutic horticulture activities as complementary well-being interventions. Our research found that these relationships could also create opportunities for preventive health and community well-being funding. Third, community organizations. This includes council, neighborhood houses, disability organizations, aged care organizations, volunteer groups, and other community organizations. These partnerships don't only provide participants. Partners may contribute volunteers, expertise, facilities, promotion, transport, and other resources. We also recommend formalizing important relationships through memorandums of understanding or MOUs, so responsibilities, referral arrangements, and shared objectives are clearly established. And this creates the strategic plan shown on my infographic. More partners, more referrals, that leads to more participants, more funding, and greater impact. This recommendation was particularly important to me because it changed the way I thought about consulting. Initially, I was looking for a recommendation. Eventually, I started thinking about an ecosystem. WWP doesn't necessarily have to generate every resource internally. Schools have students and education funding. Healthcare organizations have referral networks. Councils have community connection. Community organizations have volunteers and local knowledge. WWP has the farm, programs, and expertise. The consulting opportunities connecting those resources together. The bottom left section of my infographic represents what I consider the most important part of this assessment, my consulting journey. I describe that journey using three stages: researcher, collaborator, and consultant. During assessment 1, I was mainly operating as a researcher. My responsibilities including researching the external environment, identifying stakeholder groups, analyzing participation barriers, and helping develop recommendations. But one of my biggest lessons actually came from teamwork. There were times when I disagreed with another team member and became frustrated. Instead of allowing that frustration to turn into unnecessary conflict, I learned to control my response, listen, and remain focused on the project's objectives. That taught me something important. Consultant Consulting rather isn't only about having the best analysis. You also need emotional intelligence. You need to listen. You need to manage disagreements. And sometimes you need to accept that another person's perspective may improve your own. This connects with the Goleman's concept of emotional intelligence, particularly self awareness, self regulation, empathy, and relationship management. It also connects with Tuckman's model of team development. Our team experienced disagreements similar to the storming stage, but improved communication helped us move towards more productive collaboration. During assessment 2, I moved further from being simply a researcher towards becoming a collaborator. I was no longer just asking, what does the research say? I started asking, what can client realistically do with this information? That was a major change in my thinking. I became responsible for competitor and industry analysis and the strategic partnership recommendation. I also facilitated two team meetings, helping coordinate tasks, and presented recommendations in a client simulation. That improved my confidence. But more importantly, it taught me to look at the recommendations from the client's perspective. There is no point giving a client an impressive recommendation if they don't have the resources, stakeholder support, or ability to implement it. So now, at assessment 3, my understanding of consulting is much broader. For me, analyzing people, communication, implementation equals impact. A consultant should not only identify problems, a consultant should translate evidence into something practical, achievable, and valuable for the client. The next section of my infographic shows how these recommendations could move from ideas into action. Rather than trying to implement everything immediately, I recommend a 12-month stage approach. Months 1 to 3, WWP begins identifying partners, developing its digital content schedule, planning the first open day, developing MOUs, and identifying suitable funding opportunities. Months 4 to 8, pilot. WWP can begin running open days, trailing partnerships, and environmental workshops, developing the green referral pathway, and collecting participant feedback. This is important because pilot programs allows WWP to learn before committing resources to large-scale expansion. Months 9 to 12, measure and scale. WWP evaluates what worked. Successful partnerships can be strengthened. Evidence from pilot programs can support collaborative funding applications. Successful programs can be then expanded. The original recommendation report similarly proposes partnership development during months 1 to 3, followed by pilot delivery involving environmental education, therapeutic horticulture, green referral participants, and volunteering initiatives. So, the philosophy behind implementation is learn, adapt, improve, scale. Of course, recommendations only matter if we can measure whether they work. So the final section of the infographic establishes potential year one indicators. These include 10 or more formal partnerships, 5 participating schools, at least 3 healthcare or primary health network partnerships, 500 community participants annually, a 20% increase in volunteer participation, and a target of approximately $75,000 to $100,000 in year 1 grant and partnership funding. These targets come directly from the proposed evaluation framework in the recommendation report, but measurement should happen only at the end. The report proposes quarterly evaluation through stakeholder meetings, participant surveys, financial reports, and program performance reviews that allows WWP to identify what is working and adjust what isn't. To conclude, I want to return to the main message at the bottom of my infographic. WWP does not need to change what makes it unique. It needs to make that value easier to see, experience, and connect with. The three recommendations, therefore, aren't separate ideas. They form one connected strategy. Digital storytelling creates awareness. People discover WWP and understand its purpose. Community open days convert awareness into experience. People physically interact with the organization and develop that and build trust. Strategic partnerships turn the engagement into sustainable growth. Schools bring education opportunities. Healthcare providers create referral pathways. Community organizations increase reach and resources. And diversified partnerships create new funding opportunities. So the complete journey becomes see it, experience it, partner with it. Finally, this consulting project has also changed the way I personally approach business problems. I started this project concentrating mainly on completing my assigned research. I finished it understanding that good consulting requires something much broader: evidence, collaboration, emotional intelligence, communication, and implementation. For me, that is the biggest learning outcome from the entire project. And for wild work projects, I believe the recommendations provide a realistic pathway towards greater visibility, stronger community participation, and more sustainable, longer relationships. Thank you.